With the leg and frame pieces glued up in a previous episode, a groove is needed to accept the decorative panels. Because of the construction of the leg assemblies, some of these are non-through dados, which rules out using the table saw. A router table can be used, but I'm not a big fan of plunging at the router table. Using offcuts the same thickness, I made up a little jig so I had extra support for the router base. Everything is just clamped together. I'm using a 1/4 inch bit, but 9mm plywood, so a second pass is needed. Using the micro adjuster on the edge guide, I sneak up on it, deliberately going too small to start off with. I use an offcut of the panel pieces to dial in the fit until it's nice and snug, and then I can continue working through all the pieces until the panels fit. Then all the joinery was cut using the domino. Honestly, I went on autopilot, and you'll see an error I made a little bit later. You don't need double floating tenons for this. Plywood edge-to-edge gluing is sufficient. Everything was rounded over using a 2mm radius round over bit at the router table. Because these are only 48mm wide, sanding them individually would round them further or damage the sandpaper. Clamping them together and sanding at once was much faster and easier. Unfortunately, I cut the joinery without noticing that I should have flipped some of the pieces, which meant the grooves were on the wrong side. Because the fit was nice and tight, and because the plywood was edge grain, I was able to glue in strips of 9mm plywood for an invisible patch. Before glue up, I drilled counterbored holes for the heads of bolts to attach to the underside of the top, then through holes. I went with standard M6 connector bolts. The leg assemblies went together pretty easily using pipe clamps, though with 2 desks that meant 6 glue ups and I ran out of pipe clamps. On each desk, 2 of the assemblies get attached together with short rails to form a hutch for the computer to sit in. After the leg assemblies were dried, I could domino in those short rails. To provide rigidity, there is a stretcher that runs along the back of the desk. This connects to the top, to the hutch, and to the far leg, cinching everything together. To give the stretcher a little bit more strength, it gets glued into an L shape. This also gives a spot for the cables to rest. With the stretcher dried, again I counterbored holes for bolts. Those bolt holes were transferred to the underside of the desktop using the same 7mm brad point bit. Then I could come back with an 8mm brad drill bit to drill for the threaded inserts. I find these install much easier using a power driver and a little bit of wax. The same process was repeated for the legs, cinching them to the desktop. Given this is all plywood, I don't really have to account for wood movement. The front panels are similar to the side panels, except only a portion of it is pocketed 0.5mm down. The rest gets the profiles of the shapes cut entirely through. This is for ventilation of the computer. After those shapes are cut out, the tabs are left behind and they need to be cut out, which I did using the jigsaw. Holding it upside down is easier for visibility. The front panels are attached using aluminium sign standoffs. The front panels just need an 8mm through hole, which, like the holes for the connector bolts, is transferred using the spur of a brad point bit. Then the standoffs themselves are just screwed in using regular wood screws. So the desks are done. Well, mostly done. Nat's desk still needs the front panel installed on it. She's just sanding it at the moment before it gets its final coat of finish. Still need to rearrange a few bits and pieces here and there. We've got the all-important cat bed in the middle of the desk. He's been very happy there. As you can see, he has no qualms hopping up on the desks. The front panel has been very successful in keeping him out of the computer, but I can still press the power button on the front. However, in the future, we will add in a remote power switch for the computer. I've already done that to Nat's. For mine, I just need the time to actually be able to wire it up. Though it may not look it to you, to us, this has made the room so much bigger. There's so much more space because we're only occupying the back wall rather than the weird C shape that the two corner desks had before. And we've actually got more space in these smaller desks because they're deeper all the way through and they're wider uninterrupted space. They're also at the height that we liked, so they're very comfortable. And it's exciting to get to here. These are desks that we've sort of been planning for the last 3 or 4 years, so it's nice to finally get that project ticked off. I didn't cover assembly. I only got this assembled yesterday, mostly because it involved probably more swearing than it should have. They just bolt together. They're just very heavy, particularly if you're doing it by yourself. The cable run / back rail works quite well, though I probably would have been better off making it a J shape rather than an L shape. Just that extra bit of lip to stop the cables from rolling out. And I probably will go back and just screw on some extra pieces of plywood to achieve that. I deliberately left those back rails unfinished so that I could do things like that. We'll also likely add in a small drawer for stationery, pens, pencils, that sort of stuff, probably here. And again, that'll just bolt into the top like the rest of the desk does. We will likely use a push to open drawer runner rather than a particular pull for it. If you're a Patreon member of the relevant tier, head over to Patreon and you'll find the plans or the plan discount. Or if you're not, and you are interested in plans for this, head over to my website. Plans include the cut list for the plywood, all the artwork files and the Fusion 360 file. Thanks for watching.